Hello, guys, and welcome to Truth and Transparency. First, I want to say thank you for joining me on this lovely Friday. Give a shout out to all your favorite mods, subscribers, other members. If you're new here, again, welcome to Truth and Transparency. This is the Idaho4 case. Here is a pre-record. It's approximately 11 minutes long. Let's get into it.
I'm one of them.
One of the things that you said last night about the two of them having fallen asleep in the same bed, that was new information. Is that the case, that they were actually in the same bed?
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was
of course
supposed to be on the wraps, but
of course
I've told them, you got to work with me. You got to tell me what to say and what not to say, and I'll listen. But sometimes they're scared to give me those advices, and I understand.
Rewind back to November 14, 2022. There has only been one picture of Kaylee's bedroom that has been seen by the public after the murders. The source is the Daily Mail.
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. I didn't mean to.
Inside info, the police probably aren't going to be happy with him. What pictures were given to the family that had Kaylee's bed made after the murders? Is this bed made? Home Team Productions, Truth and Transparency.
That you said last night about the two of them having fallen asleep in the same bed, that was new information. Is that the case, that they were actually in the same bed?
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner.
And Steve, it wasn't new, that being Kaylee and Maddie in the same bed. How did Steve know this? And when did Steve know this?
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made.
This picture was not given to Steve from the coroner. So why is Steve talking about this Daily Mail picture as the source to how he knew about the girls being in Maddie's bed together?
It was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was.
What inside info? The coroner said in a public interview that all the victims were all found dead in beds. Daily Mail photo shows a bed without someone dead in it. Is this the process of elimination that Steve used to conclude is dead in her bed. At first I thought so, but he doesn't get the description of the bed correct, of the Daily Mail photo, which leads me to believe that he was just using this as fodder.
It was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was...
Prior to the murders, when was the last time that Steve was inside the 1122 King Road house?
So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was supposed to be on the wraps, but
Of course
I've
not.
told them, you got to work with me. You got to tell me what to say and what not to say, and I'll listen. But sometimes they're scared to give me those advices, and I understand.
Let me ask you, because of something that you said when you spoke with Lawrence Jones, do you believe...
Why would Steve need to ask the police to work with him, basically coach him, and tell him what he should or shouldn't say? What do the police know that Steve knows, and if it comes out, would hinder the investigation? Steve making these comments tells me that Steve has personal knowledge of a lot of things, insider info. And it isn't from a butt. How could it be from law enforcement if law enforcement hasn't been telling them anything?
Do you believe that people on this campus know something that the rest of us don't know? Do you think that there was a stalker involved in this case?
I don't think it matters what I particularly feel. I just want them to follow the evidence. I think even people who think they don't have information, I know people have been scared to share stuff because of there may be a alcohol or drugs or something in the background. I've tried to work with them to let everybody know that that's not what they're working on. But I've definitely heard from people that they're scared to submit stuff. It could be a party. It could be anything around that neighborhood within that time that could help us. And I think that community is going to solve this case just as much as those officers in that room.
You said something about, someone's car could be, in a selfie or a video of a person who said that they had an alibi, but the car isn't where it was supposed to be. Tell me about that, what you're thinking when you say that, sir.
I have an IT background. I know Teslas and some other vehicles have cameras that you don't even have to turn on and they're still recording. And there's some chips in there that you can pull data off. I know that's the way the Wi-Fi's work. So this individual could have came into these homes and partied and done things, and that data can be captured. I want this guy to be fair. I want him to be scared. I don't want him to be confident. I want him to be sick of seeing my face. And I'm not going nowhere until this guy's off the streets. And the worst thing I want is another family to go through this.
Kaylee's mom said something about being fearful that he is around, that he's watching all of this, that he could even show up at a funeral service for your daughter or one of these children.
It's pretty much a fact. He who does something like this and doesn't tune into the media? Who wouldn't? It's in his 100% selfish interest. So yes, he is. And we wouldn't want to do some kind of celebration and exclude anyone. So yeah, he could easily be there. And that's a sick kind of twisted person that would do this kind of crime.
When you talked about getting into the phone, you said we have family passwords and, we were able to get in there. Is there anything that you can share with us about what you learned there or people she was communicating with? We know there was a back and forth between she and her on and off boyfriend through the course of the night.
There was a little, there was some information. We were able to get that to the police officers. I think it definitely helped them. I know the behavior footprint afterwards, it did definitely get some more things in the works. But I'm a historical fact person. I can help them know my daughters and Maddie from past. But going forward, I'm going to be less and less relevant.
Do you believe that your daughter was the target, or do you have any reason to think that that she was over someone else, or that someone else was?
I do have some inkling that there was some behavior difference. I call them a footprint. When you commit a crime, you do different behaviors. I've asked permission to give any of that out, and they told me no, it would not be beneficial. So I've held back on that, and I tried to keep my word.
I'm sorry, behavior of her or someone she knew?
Behavior of the victims.
Okay. All right, Steve, I appreciate you sharing this with us. And as I said, we're going to put the tip line. The tip line is up right now. It's 208-883-7180. And as you have said, none of these young people should fear that if they were drinking that night or involved in what most of us would consider pretty typical college behavior, that they are going to become a problem, that's going to be a problem for them. They need to come forward with their videos, whatever's on their phone, whatever they might have picked up on, in order to continue to work to get a break in this case, which is what we all want. We all want some justice. We want to find out who did this, and that you can all find some sort of eventual peace in this.
Idaho4 documentary. This has been going on since November. We're going to be looking at the documents. I know that everybody is waiting to look at these documents, so I'm going to show these documents. Let's take a look. Just came off the press today. Ann Taylor responds. Ann Taylor responds to the state's motion to protect, seal everything to do with IGG. Okay, here we go. So because of these bombshells, I wanted you guys to see that intro, into the intro of the timelines that I'll be doing. I'm going to be doing that tomorrow because of today's bombshells that came at the end of the day. I'm going to show you guys these documents, and this is explosive. I mean, it just can't get any more explosive than what you guys are going to see. If you haven't seen them yet, awesome. You get to see them right here with us. Hector the projector. Let's see what Hector's got for us. Oh, there we go. All right. Looking good, Hector. Let's do it. Here we go. Okay. So again, objection to state's motion for a protective order. Zoom in here for you guys. Hector's working overtime lately. Bombshells right out the gate. On November 13th, 2022, law enforcement later found a K-bar knife sheath placed. I want to show you why that's important. This is the state's factual, but law enforcement found a K-bar knife sheath on a bed next to the bodies of Madison and Kaylee. Ann Taylor, law enforcement later found a K-bar knife sheath placed. Boom! Holy shit! Placed next to Miss Mogan on her bed. The sheath was placed button side down and partially under Miss Mogan and the comforter. Placed. On November 20th, 2022, the Idaho State Police Lab located DNA on the button of the sheath and performed STR analysis that later led nowhere when running it through CODIS, other than to show the provider was a male. That's it. By December 17th, 2022, lab analysis were aware of 2 additional males' DNA, 2 within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown male DNA on a glove found outside the residence on November 20th, 2022. To this date, the defense is unaware of what sort of testing, if any, was conducted on these samples other than STR DNA profiles. Further, these 3 separate and distinct male DNA profiles were not identified through CODIS, leading to the conclusion that the profiles do not belong to Mr. Kohberger. While this was ongoing, police were investigating many various possible suspects. Many of them provided DNA. At least one had his DNA taken from and discarded with a cigarette. Done so basically had to hide getting this person's DNA. Many also had their phones taken and downloaded. One area of the investigation had to do with a white sedan seen on a camera located at 1122 King Road, first glimpsed by officers on November 18th, 2022. Hell no. Anne is just giving me the timeline that I need. Thank you, baby. Bring me those dates. Bring me those timestamps. I will put together one of the most detailed and descriptive outlines you can ever imagine. I need dates, timestamps. Ann Taylor bringing it with the dates. You notice there, you can't find no dates in theirs. Boom, dates. Somebody's listening. Again, they did not, a first glimpse by officers, because this is based on reports, you guys. They did not look at this video until November 18th. November 18th. First glimpse by officers on November 18th. They did their press conference on November 16th. Okay. They didn't even know about the sedan until November 18th, based on reports. By November 25th, 2022, police believed the car to be a white Elantra and asked law enforcement to be on the lookout for one. Precisely how the police came to believe the car was an Elantra is still unknown. It's still unknown. Oh my God, what? You gotta be shitting me. Exactly. This is why, guys, we have not seen the car, the still. A report from an analyst for the FBI dated March 21st, 2023 shows the analyst heavily relied on a video of a car heading in the wrong direction and at the wrong time on Ridge Road. They didn't even use, the FBI didn't use the King Road video. The FBI used a car heading in the wrong direction and at the wrong time on Ridge Road. Shoo! Okay. The state's latest filing admits that somewhere within all of this, they engaged in investigative genetic genealogy. Using the DNA taken from the button on the sheath, and now claims that it was due to the use of this technique that it, quote unquote, tipped local law enforcement to investigate Mr. Kohberger. It remains unclear what the police first relied on in focusing their investigation on Mr. Kohberger. No matter what came first, the car or the genetic genealogy, the investigation has provided precious little. There is no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. So again, I will re-emphasize this for those of you guys that did not hear my live earlier this afternoon. Anybody that put it out there that Bryan Kohberger was following any of these people on social media, 100% false. I put it out there earlier. Drunk Turkey said, are you basically saying that Christy's lying about what she told me about the social media? I said, I don't speak for Christy. You can ask Christy all that yourself. I have no idea what you talked to with Christy. Now, again, no matter what came first, the car or the genetic genealogy, the investigation has provided precious little. There is no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. There is no explanation, none, for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. Are you kidding me? This is everything. Go back and check. A couple weeks ago, I had a live with Scott Roeder. I said, Scott, what if it comes back? There's no evidence of any of the victims in anything that belongs to Bryan Kohberger, especially his vehicle. He said, well, they have a lot of explaining to do because I'm under the impression there's all this evidence. I've never seen a motion that I'm about to read here today. This is in essence, again, apartment, office, home, or vehicle. There is no connection, and guess what? There is no explanation from the state for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. In essence, through the lack of disclosure and their motion to protect the genetic genealogy investigation, the state is hiding its entire case. The state is hiding its entire case. Now, here comes their argument. This is, whoever wrote this, because I don't want to just say it's Ann Taylor, because I think Jay's hilarious. If you could just see his mannerisms, but I think he's a ball bust. But whoever wrote this, because I do believe, you have all the people on your team, but whoever wrote this, impressive. Here we go, the argument. The state apparently thinks that they need not explain how they came to think that it was Mr. Kohberger's DNA on the sheath. Presumably, the defense is expected to accept at face value that the sheath had touched DNA just waiting for testing by all of the FBI's sources or resources. Additionally, the defense is to guess whether the state focused its investigation on Mr. Kohberger via a bizarrely complex DNA tree experiment or through its faulty identification of the vehicle involved in this case. Oh, she didn't go there. Perhaps unsurprisingly, Mr. Kohberger does not accept that his defense does not need this information. It rather obviously falls within the Rule 16b-4 and 5, a fact the state's briefing makes clear in its kitchen sink approach to their briefing. The state begins their argument claiming Rule 16 has no interest in IgG testing, and then ends their argument claiming that somehow people will stop sharing their genetics if they were to realize the government is watching. Both arguments must fail. To begin with, the state apparently only wants to prevent Mr. Kohberger from seeing how the IgG profile was created and how many other people the FBI choose to ignore during their investigation. In essence, the state argues that if the later STR testing is accurate, then there is no reason to concern ourselves with how the state came to investigate Mr. Kohberger. What have we been saying? State's brief at 9. That's what he's saying, or whoever wrote this is where they're bringing that up. What the state's argument asks this court and Mr. Kohberger to assume is that the DNA on the sheath was placed there by Mr. Kohberger and not someone else during an investigation that spans hundreds of members of law enforcement and apparently at least one lab the state refuses to name. What a sentence that was. Perhaps most puzzling is the state's argument that while Rule 16b-5 requires them to turn over the results or reports from scientific investigations, it does not require the state to disclose what law enforcement does with the results or reports. State's brief at 14. First of all, that sounds like an admission that the information as to how the IgG was carried out should be disclosed. Second, what law enforcement does with results or reports is covered by Rule 16b-6, statements of prosecution witnesses, and 8, police reports. Frankly, the fact that members of the FBI are so concerned about permitting Mr. Kohberger to know what they were up to with what was supposedly his DNA does not give one the impression that there is, quote unquote, nothing to see here, as the state seems to imply. Oh my God, dude. She is just boom, boom. This is Ann Taylor with the 1-2 body blows right here. This is insanity. These facts that they're claiming here. Finally, the state's claim that ICR 16G2 applies to this matter is quite bizarre. Presumably, the independent company the government relied on was paid for its work and would stand by it in a court. The state provides no real argument as to why the company needs to be protected. Mr. Kohberger is left to suspect they wish to keep their methods from being questioned to the extent that there is some concern about intellectual property that can be addressed via a protective order that permits Mr. Kohberger and his defense team to review their work. And then they cite the case. Second, the state appears to argue that everyone living on Earth that provides genetic information is A, unaware that their DNA could be used by a government somewhere for something, and B, is an informant within the meaning of the term and the rule. The state citations to cases involving actual informants hardly help it make this incredible leap. No court has ever found the existence of a DNA informant. Oh my God, I can't. I just can't. Hold on, I need some water. We don't even know that answer. We don't even know. We don't even know how we got this. I don't even know that answer. This is wild. Unbelievable is right. Okay. Back at it. Okay. Here we go. This is nutso. Second, again, has ever found the existence of a DNA informant. I can't. It would appear that the state is acknowledging that the companies are providing personal information to the state, and that those companies and the government would suffer if the public were to realize it. The only two databases that allow access are ones that already inform their users, and those users can opt in to allow law enforcement searches. The statement by the government implies that the databases searched may be ones that law enforcement is specifically barred from, which explains why they do not want to disclose their methods. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is insanity. This is another level of insanity. This is nuts. Again, welcome to the transparency, keeping it real here all the time. How would you feel? I mean, do you think this is Bryan Kohberger's right? I do. Be any of our rights. If the fact that the government is looking at the genetic information that people are sharing was at all an issue, then the state's very public acknowledgement of such investigations was clearly a big mistake. Oh my God. Oh God, what a blow. Oh shit. In any case, it is hard to understand why Mr. Kohberger should be the one to suffer, because these companies and our government chose to either mislead or not educate the public. According to Pew Research Center in February 2020, 48% of respondents thought it was acceptable to give their DNA or their data to the law enforcement agencies to solve crime. 33% said no, and 18% were unsure. So they're deciding a couple things here. There is no federal law about the sharing of genetic information, but multiple states have begun regulating police use. Again, more citing. Mr. Kohberger has reasons to be extremely suspicious of the IgG used in this case. Rather than seeing it as some sort of complex tree building that led to him, it appears far more like a lineup where the government was already aware of who they wanted to target. Rather than have the investigation done by someone blind to that fact, the FBI chose to do it themselves. Oh, this is akin to the police pulling in Mr. Kohberger and 5 of his cousins off the street and then pointing at him. Wow. The only authority the state has in its favor that is on point is a trial court order from a Californian case that settled before it could lead anywhere. That decision relied on is People versus Johnson. The court in Johnson was not deciding whether a defendant had a right to know how he was identified, only that his identification could come in a trial without a mini trial about it. A better case on the issue is State versus Ortega. In this case, an appellate court heard similar arguments about the need for software used for facial recognition to be discovered to the defendant, though they would not be admitted at trial. The court, considering the matter, found, we are aware of the cases we have discussed involved instances concerning FRI hearings and potential expert testimony, and that here we are dealing instead with eyewitnesses who have already identified the perpetrator, and the identification found admissible under Wade. However, the facts of this case convince us defendant will be deprived of due process if he does not have access to the raw materials integral into the building of the effective defense, to build an effective defense. That he needs those raw materials. The evidence sought here is directly tied to the defense's ability to test the reliability of the FRT. As such, it is vital to impeach the witness's identification, challenge the state's investigation, create reasonable doubt, and demonstrate third-party guilt. Boom. The FRT's reliability has obvious implications for the accuracy of the identification process, because an array constructed around a mistaken potential match would leave the witness with no actual perpetrator to choose. The reliability of the technology bears direct relevance to the quality and thoroughness of the broader criminal investigation, and whether the potential matches the software return yield any other variable alternative suspects to establish third-party guilt. Defendant's request for the identity design specifications and operation of the program or programs used for analysis, and the databases or database used for the comparison are relevant. At trial, the state will likely have the investigating officers explain the police investigation, including the process of retrieving the still photo from the surveillance cameras ultimately used to generate an image of defendant. Although we do not speculate regarding the exact nature of this testimony and whether defendant will seek to impeach it, the fact the state does not bear the burden of adducing testimony regarding the composition of the photo array does not bar the defense access to the discovery sought. Again, Mr. Kohberger here finds himself in a similar position as Mr. Ortega. A massive investigation came to focus on him and him alone. The state appears to be trying to hide its original domino. The original domino. How did you get to Bryan Kohberger? I've been saying it for 7 months since the name came and since he was arrested. How did you get to Bryan Kohberger? And everybody out there, a lot of people, it doesn't matter. What do you mean? Oh my God, it's the DNA. It's the DNA. It's the DNA. Oh, the placed DNA? The state appears to be trying to hide its original domino, such that it cannot discover why. Mr. Kohberger has a right to discover and question the investigation that led to him. This court should so find. Now, there's more. I mean, everything is, they hit on everything in what took her. I mean, it's a total of 8 pages, okay? But the first page is, your caption. Then you got your stuff. But what they were able to say in basically 6 pages, my question is I'm with Bryan Kohberger's defense team, and y'all submitted this puppy, which is 28 pages. To what? You guys are acting like Brian's trying to get the information of who these people, what? No, we want to know how you built the tree. How did you get to Bryan Kohberger? And then check this out. Let's go back to this timeline, which is, let's look at some of these dates. So basically, boom, bombshell number 1 is they come right off the rip and say the sheath was placed. That's number 1. Number 2, where the victims were located, 2 additional males' DNA within the house where the deceased were located, and another unknown male DNA on a glove found outside. You had this, so you found this out by December 17th. Okay, you didn't arrest Bryan. What'd you do with all this stuff? Now, everybody that's watching out there, it says, oh my God, he's so guilty, he's so guilty, he's so guilty. Okay. Well, let me bring you this. There's other DNA. It's not, they have no idea whose it is. Then they said that the officers first glimpsed at this white sedan seen on a camera located at 1122 King Road. One area of the investigation had to do with a white sedan seen on a camera located at 1122 King Road, first glimpsed by officers on November 18th. By November 25th, police believed the car to be a white Elantra and asked law enforcement to be on the lookout for one. Precisely how the police came to believe the car was an Elantra is still unknown. A report from an analyst for the FBI dated March 21st, 2023. His report was dated after the arrest of Bryan Kohberger? You're kidding me. A report dated March 21st, 2023 shows that this person, this FBI, and now analyst, relied heavily on a video of a car heading in the wrong direction and at the wrong time on Ridge Road, not on King, not anywhere near King. Wait, dated March 21st. Wait, then what's the PCA about, or the FBI? So what's all that? Where are these reports that were from and used for the PCA? While this is going on, the FBI is somehow asked to, here, just do this genealogy testing over here. But the Idaho State Lab had it first. And we're going to get into that because here's where the bombs are going to continue. So when did you start this process to possibly be able to do a family tree and get the DNA that you're using to do all this? When did that even begin? When did that start? If he was innocent, why didn't he say from day one, I'm innocent and being framed? Because that's a dumbass that talks to anybody. I wouldn't talk to anybody and say a damn word. That's why. His lawyer said in Pennsylvania that he's looking forward to being exonerated. You know why I think he used the word exonerate? Because everybody came after him. This isn't innocent until proven guilty, or that's not how the world is looking at anything anymore. You are guilty until you're proved innocent, and that's a shame. Anything that you say can and will be used against you. It's read that way for a reason. Period. This is just so well worded. The state's latest filing admits, and somewhere within all of this, that they engaged in investigative genetic genealogy using the DNA taken from the button of the sheath, and now claims that it was due to the use of this technique that it tipped local law enforcement to investigate Mr. Kohberger. But it remains unclear what the police first relied on in focusing their investigation on Mr. Kohberger. No matter what came first, though, the car or the genetic genealogy, the investigation has provided precious little. There is no connection between Mr. Kohberger and the victims. There is no explanation for the total lack of DNA evidence from the victims in Mr. Kohberger's apartment, office, home, or vehicle. What do you got now? How anybody that believes in our rights, believes in their own rights, can possibly read this motion and say, this is just tactic. Of course they're going to say all of this. What? I've never seen anything written like this before. Have you guys? Ann Taylor and company just basically came out and accused the FBI, the Idaho State Police, the local law enforcement of fucking planting a sheath and targeting Mr. Kohberger before this ever even started. You understand that, right? Why? Because there's no connection. So even if his stuff would have came back positive, you can get false positives, okay? So when you would have seen that, oh my God, wait a second, holy shit, there's no DNA in the car of any of the victims. There's no DNA of the victims in his apartment, in his office, nothing, anywhere. Why didn't you just talk to Bryan Kohberger when you came across his name? Now I know why Dylan and Bethany are scared as shit. Now I know they're talking about, I don't put this in writing, that Bethany's not going to get arrested when she crosses the border and into Idaho. What the hell's going on? How are you able to explain that there's no victim DNA? And you know what everyone's going to say? This is what they're going to say. He cleaned it up. He cleaned it up. Okay, well, you tested the car. You tested the apartment. You tested everything. What did it come back positive for? There's whose DNA? Who's this male DNA? By December 17th, 2022, The lab was aware of 2 additional males' DNA within the house where the deceased were located. Okay, so when they say where the deceased were located, where? Very curious, where was this DNA? Because I would expect there to be hella DNA up in there. So I'm curious where. Not only that, but there was a glove, November 20th. That tested positive for male DNA. Again, none of this is Bryan's. Now, what you have Ann Taylor doing is you have Ann Taylor going on the record here, and she wants to give, and this is another documents. Let's do this, pick it out a little bit. This is declaration of Ann C. Taylor in support of defendant's 3rd motion to compel. This is Ann Taylor doing a declaration. This is impressive. Ann C. Taylor do state and declare. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger filed a specific request for discovery related to the DNA in this case titled Defendant's 3rd Supplemental Request for Discovery. Remember I told you, we talked about this the last time, that supplemental 1 and 2 were the only things that were covered in that motion to compel. Well, so this is about the request of number 3, and that had everything to do with the DNA. Okay. Those of you guys that caught my earlier live, and I was talking to you guys before these documents ever came out, for this, I was talking to you guys about Idaho and the state lab, and they had a grant for $3 million that they announced that they had gotten 2 weeks before these murders. So think about what I talked about earlier. Now let's read this. The state filed a specific response to that request. After reviewing the materials provided, the following remains to be discovered. A, request 3, profiles uploaded to a DNA database. The state has provided information related to this request for the seized item, the knife sheath only. Defense has requested all DNA profiles, including 3 additional unidentified male DNA profiles developed during the course of law enforcement investigation. This information has not been supplied. Request 6, communications. The state has not provided all emails, text messages, electronic messages, or other messages and conversations regarding biological testing in this investigation. Request number 9 and number 10. Unexpected results and corrective actions. This request has been partially complied with. However, the response lacks the full scope of the request. 6 months before and 6 months after testing related to this investigation. Further, information relating to all lab personnel has not been provided. Number 3, part of the 3rd supplement discovery request was for materials related to genetic genealogy testing. A, the state has objected to this request in its entirety and has filed a motion for protective order. Counsel for Mr. Kohberger requests this court consider this objection to the state's motion and declarations in support of the motion to compel. The requested discovery is properly sought pursuant to Idaho Criminal Rule 16. This discovery is necessary to the preparation of Mr. Kohberger's defense. I always said, how are they supposed to provide a defense if it has to do with the planting of evidence? How do you do it? There's only one way. And they're going to win this argument. They laid it out. The only way we can defend Mr. Kohberger Counsel for Mr. Kohberger has reviewed the materials provided in this case regarding the DNA testing, laboratory reports, bench notes, and photographs. Further, experts in the field of genetic genealogy and DNA have consulted and offered information and guidance. The state acknowledges it used genetic genealogy testing in this case, but claims it does not have to produce the records in the specific request for discovery. The defense disagrees. Counsel has learned through consultation with experts and sources referenced below that the use of genetic genealogy databases does not necessarily lead to a single individual as a potential suspect, and that reports of these searches often reference multiple individuals for further investigation and DNA testing. In fact, the state acknowledges such in its motion for protective order when it acknowledges, in quotes, hundreds of relatives. Page 5, motion for protection order. The state conducted by a private lab, you guys are gonna shit your pants, by a private lab is completely different in nature than the testing done by forensic labs. Genetic genealogy labs do not generate a quote-unquote profile in the same way that forensic labs do. And there cannot be a direct comparison between the data obtained in this case by the Idaho State Forensic Crime Scene Lab and the private lab. The tests used by private labs are either SNP, that is a single nucleotide polymorphism, or whole sequencing. These tests are similar to the methods used by commercial services such as 23andMe and Ancestry.com. Based upon information from experts in the field, I have learned that once a genetic genealogy profile is created and the testing by the private lab is completed, the profile is uploaded to a database that contains similar data from other individuals. Once the genetic genealogy profile is uploaded, the profile is compared within the database and relatives are identified. It is my understanding that once possible relatives have been identified, their identities are used to construct a family tree to identify possible suspects using public records, and in some instances, contacting individuals for further family information. This process leads to a pool of individuals rather than one specific individual. The possibility of other relatives who might be similar to Mr. Kohberger is extremely important to the defense in this case. I have reviewed a copy of an Idaho State Police announcement dated July 28, 2021. Oh my God, this is insanity. Wait for it. Holy shit. And we got more documents. Oh my God, you guys brace yourselves. This is wild. I have reviewed a copy of an Idaho State Police announcement dated July 28, 2021, that the Idaho State Police Forensic Services Laboratory secured a grant. Shut the God, no way. Oh my goodness. That the Idaho State had secured a grant. Oh no. Oh my goodness. If you guys oh god. Secured a grant to fund genetic genealogy testing for unsolved Idaho cases. See attached Exhibit A, ISPFS. Check this out. This is what we were talking about. Idaho State Police. Ding, ding, ding. Boom, bombshell. The Idaho State Police Forensic Service Laboratory is extremely excited to announce that we have secured a grant to fund genetic genealogy testing and searching of unsolved Idaho cases. The cases we are starting with are unsolved homicides, sexual assaults, and missing persons / unidentified remains cases. Idaho is the first state in the country to take the statewide approach for this technology. Instead of each law enforcement LE agency having to negotiate their own contract pricing and quality control with a private lab. Oh my God! I can't even read this. Holy shit! Oh my God. Oh my God. Why would you contract a private lab when this is what you do? This is what you got the funding for. Oh my God. Oh my God. This is just puke fest. Holy shitballs. In addition, by ISPFS securing, I'm sorry, let me just read that part again. Instead of each law enforcement agency having to negotiate their own contract pricing, holy shit, and quality control with a private lab, ISPFS has done that at the state level through the Idaho Department of Purchasing. In addition, by ISPFS securing federal grant funding, we can offer these services to local, county, and state agencies at no cost to the local law enforcement agency. In order to facilitate this, ISPFS has formed a state genetic genealogy investigation team. Oh my God! Shut up. Why did the FBI do it? What? You've got to be fucking kidding me right now. Remember the Idaho State Police Department, this lab? They were in the process of starting up. And then they said, oh, stop. Send that over to the FBI. They're going to do this. Holy shit. Is at no cost to local law enforcement agency. In order to facilitate this, ISPFS has formed a state genetic genealogy investigation team consisting of laboratory personnel, an Idaho State Police investigator detective, and a representative from the Rocky Mountain Enforcement Network to identify cases eligible for testing under this grant. Once a case is identified as eligible, the team is reaching out to the local law enforcement agencies and prosecutor to bring them onto the team for that case. The state team is a resource for local law enforcement. Idaho now has a formal contract with Ortham Laboratories, a prominent leader in forensic genealogy, to conduct the genealogy testing and forensic genealogy searching. ISPFS is ensuring that Ortham follows accepted laboratory processes and procedures and complies with the United States DOJ interim policy on forensic genealogy. I'll let you guys go ahead and read on with everything to do with that. We'll come back to it here in a second. We're going to say more what Anne has to say about what she wanted to tell everybody about, which was she's reviewed a copy of an Idaho State Police announcement dated July 28, 2021. The Idaho State Police Forensic Service Laboratory secured a grant to fund genetic genealogy testing for unsolved Idaho cases. See attached Exhibit A. ISPFS contracted with Ortham Laboratories in Texas. See attached, again, Exhibit A. The U.S. Department of Justice issued its interim policy for forensic genetic genealogy, DNA analysis, and search in 2019. The policy describes the process that law enforcement engages in during these searches. And the results and limitations of the method. The identified individuals are, quote unquote, one or more genetic associations. That means, quote unquote, means that the donor of the forensic or reference sample may be related to a service user, emphasis added, which may require additional investigative work and testing. If a suspect is identified, the agency is required to retain all FGG profiles, account information, and data for potential use during prosecution and subsequent judicial proceedings. See attached Exhibit B. Get the fuck out of here. This is insanity. Defense Exhibit B. United States Department of Justice interim policy, forensic genetic genealogy, DNA analysis, and searching. God, I need a glass of something. Purpose and scope. Wow. Wow. Go back to it for a second here. Here we go. A new, oopsies. Okay. A new collaborative national technology validation and was established in 2022. So this was a new. Its purpose is to collaborate and formulate methods and policies for labs and law enforcement to establish forensic investigative genetic genealogy programs. This collaborative contributed to a forensic science journal. So they're talking about how this is science, guys. I believe this is all science. This is science. Its purpose is to collaborate and formulate methods and policy for labs and law enforcement to establish forensic investigative genetic genealogy programs. This collaborative contributed to a forensic science journal. They put that in there. This the publication includes contributors from Idaho. So went ahead and cited that. This publication includes references to the aforementioned U.S. Department of Justice interim policy. Of particular note is the policy of release of information in ordinance with rules of discovery. See attached Exhibit C. B. C. There you go. So this is C. Okay. Let's go and see what she wants to say, though, about it before we take our heinies that way. Okay. particular note is the policy of release of information in ordinance with rules of discovery. See attached Exhibit C, right? I am aware of specific news reports in this case regarding Mr. Kohberger's DNA, as published by the New York Times on June 11, 2023, that quote unquote FBI personnel worked with the profile that Ortham had produced, spending days building out a family tree that began with distant relatives. Holy shit! Way to go, Coffindorfer! Oh my God, I can't. Dude, I cannot. Somebody tell these people to put you know what in what. This is insanity. This is crazy. That FBI personnel worked with the profile had produced, spending days building out a family tree that began with distant relatives. Oh my God. The New York Times sources have more information than the state has disclosed to the defense. Oh my God. Shut the What is going on in the world? This is insanity. Oh my God. Bryan and families will be rich. This is reckless. This is out of control. And if anybody thinks that Ann Taylor is just going to whip up a declaration and put all this shit in there, okay, and do all of this, and just lie? Why? Ready? The New York Times sources have more information than the state has disclosed to the defense. This New York Times article generated intense media coverage and interest, the scope of which is explained in the True Scope report attached as Exhibit D. Whew. I don't even want to know what Exhibit D is. Oh, there it is. Exhibit D. The New York Times Mike Baker article. Shit. This is wild. I can't even. This is unbelievable. The New York Times Mike article, Friday, June 16th. In this report, Mike Baker article, 24 items. Mike Baker article, 24 items. A new DNA technique finally brought a breakthrough inside the hunt for the University of Idaho killer. Seattle Times, Mike Baker, inside the hunt for an Idaho killer. Moscow, Idaho. In the weeks after 4 university students were found slaughtered in a house near campus last November, a growing roster. Pottsville, Pennsylvania. Mike Baker, inside the hunt for the University. Case highlights digital footprint left by Americans every day. Anyways, guys, there's like mass, just one page after another to, A look inside the 6-week hunt for possible Idaho killer. Advanced DNA analysis helped identify suspect body. Bryan Kohberger was indicted in the stabbing deaths of 4 University of Idaho students. Look at this shit. Look at this. Investigators utilized an advanced method of DNA analysis to help produce a lead. Look at all this. They're showing all the different states and cities. New York, World News Mojo, Scranton, PA, Miami, Florida, This is what they're showing. Going back to the motion. This New York Times article generated intense media coverage and interest, the scope of which is explained in the True Scope report attached as Exhibit D. In addition, Mr. Kohberger's defense team has discussed the use of statistics in this type of case with experts who have informed me that the manner of identifying Mr. Kohberger via this type of search may have significant impacts on the statistical analysis of the CODIS profiling or the CODIS profile generated by the Idaho State Police Lab. Without access to the actual genetic genealogy search methods and results, it is impossible for qualified experts to address these issues. You want to talk about your rights being violated? Counsel for Mr. Kohberger notes that the state utilized a statistical analysis number to claim a high likelihood of a match between the DNA on the sheath and that of Mr. Kohberger. The state, by its own admission, has taken a number of steps to identify Mr. Kohberger as a match. The statistical probability is not an absolute. The size of comparison sample and the nature of the search are important to ascertain conclusion bias. Mr. Kohberger has a right to effective assistance of counsel. He has a right to confront evidence. Counsel must undertake a thorough investigation of all parts of the case the state brings against Mr. Kohberger. Look at that, B-U-R-G-E-R. Somebody said Kohberger. As such, the genetic genealogy investigation and process is necessary for the defense team to do its job. I declare under penalty of perjury that the foregoing is true and correct, and that those matters stated upon information and belief are true to the best of my knowledge. Ann Taylor. Declaration. Now, let's go back to this whole Idaho State Police. And, well, first of all, I'm going to go ahead and look in chat. I want to chat it up with you guys. What is up, guys? Can you believe this? What do we think? This is just wow. But let me guess. This is just the defense is what delaying? The defense is delaying some? Wow, Lana. Wow. This is unreal. I can't believe it. Wow, 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 wow. Shout out to Miss Nine. Back at you. What is up, all the mods in chat? You guys are probably thumbing around. No, everybody that's watching that says that the prosecution, okay, we have our guy. This is our guy. This is who did this. This is who did what exactly? This is who did what? This is better than that, bro. I want to know how. I just heard Daniel DTS say, I'm taking my big fat foot out of my mouth after saying he did it. Well, I mean, what's going on here? How would you not have a problem if you're law enforcement and you're watching this right now and you're reading this? Hector the projector showing up. Like and subscribe to TNT. Oh, thanks. Glad I caught alive. Major freaking problems. He drove a white Elantra. Shoot him. The state's case is imploding. Yes. Yes, it is. Latina, you want to come up here? And I would like to hear some of your finer words. And this has been the path of travel for, I know this channel and the channel supporters in finding the truth. Okay. We didn't accept when 1 + 1 doesn't equal 2. We don't accept that. Okie dokie. Oh, great. Perfect. Here. Now this is only for the drop-in right here of paste that. There you go. Take that, snap that. I'm trying to look at all state's case. What case exactly? So who did it then? Who is being protected? Mind blowing. How about this? They're. If you already have Bryan Kohberger's name, I think the people to talk to and investigate and ask questions to and interrogate are the people running the pony show. How would you feel if you just read this and you're the parents of the victims? Hi.
Hello.
Oh my gosh. Good evening. How are you?
Well, honey bunny boo boo, let me tell you, I have well, first of all, your laugh is hilarious. It reminds me of my grandmother, who, God rest her soul, would have been over 100 from Italy. But I don't know why. It's just a very robust laugh that you have. But anyway, I don't want to say happy because I'm sad at the same time. Because I'm sad because it really reflects on our legal system that this has been allowed to happen. It just calls into question everything, right?
Well, yeah.
But I'm happy because I believe, and I have believed almost from the get-go, that this young man has been, completely devastated and erroneously targeted. There were just so many pieces. Now, okay, he could still be guilty, whatever, but I really have felt that there were too many manipulated words the whole way along.
Well, I think that it was everybody's tone was changing. Like, or maybe that's not the way I want to say it. There's just been so many discrepancies based on like people's own words and then what they say like the next time they talk. So it's not just, in my opinion, law enforcement. Okay. This has been statements that have been made from everybody that's talked. Okay. And it's like, and then the next time that they talk, it's like, wait, what?
No, I agree. And I just think if you look at the PCA from day one, and I recall you saying this, regardless of all the machinations and iterations of your lives and the documents and the Elantra, the this and that, just focusing on the PCA, so much of what was said was just sloppily done. And, at one point there was this sort of anecdotal thing that Payne said, like in his experience, people would turn off the phone. Well, we're not interested really in your experience. We're interested in facts. So there was just, I don't know. What do you think the next? I'm not really offering much up to your chat here.
Oh no, it's great.
Sorry.
No, I mean you're right. Well, the thing with the sheet that always bothered me is that they use the body cam to show where the dog was.
Right.
Why can't you reference with one of your body cams the sheath? You know what I mean?
Exactly. And
there was just never that reference.
It's never been there. No. And we haven't seen, that's the thing, is what we have not seen the body cam of them even going in the room. And now Payne says that he initially said he could see that sheath really at the threshold, I believe, of walking into Maddie's room. He saw it on the bed. Now he's saying it was tucked under the duvet and under her. I mean, it's just very upsetting, guys.
Yeah, no, this is, well, what I think what's upsetting for me is that, you know, how can you read Ann Taylor's motion, and she's basically saying, you know, Bryan Kohberger has been framed, but not that he's been framed, but it was like it was done ahead of time,
Right.
because they already had this dude's name. You know what I mean?
Right. No, it seems to me and it was clear when the state made some statements about the FBI, and obviously, like, you know, your whole math homework metaphor, where is the same as like in medicine. We say if we don't document it, it never happened. You have to document. And the fact that the FBI didn't, and then they use these sort of slippery words, very, very squirrely words like the DNA informant. And then suddenly it's Brian's sister is an informant. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, it's just,
wild stuff.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, 100, like wild. That's wild.
It is wild. And then suddenly you know, people go crazy saying, yep, she's the one that informed. But as you said earlier, you can't have a DNA result be an quote an informant.
Yeah, isn't
right?
that, yeah, that's exactly what she said.
So it's nuts.
No,
So the whole thing is, I guess, I mean, I'm gonna pop off or drop off or whatever in a couple of minutes. But as a physician, I'm going to tell you this, and I put it very poorly written in your comment from your earlier live in your comment section. But what I was trying to express is that they took a minuscule amount of transfer DNA, you know, probably far less than what we do when we press our finger on the ATM machine at our local bank. Transfer DNA that's on the bottom button of the sheath. And they basically took that, already probably knowing that their quote tipster had given them the name, right, of who it was. And then they used this company in Texas to sort of have them sort of retro create what they thought might be, you know, a DNA profile. Then they slam it off to the FBI. I mean, of course, they went to Idaho4 lab, then to Texas, then to the FBI. So you've got a complete rupture in the chain of custody, right? And they admit it themselves, because they're saying they have no chain of custody from the FBI, right? It's like, and they're hiding behind the whole idea that it needs to protect identities of DNA informants or whatever. So then they get the FBI to sort of do this quote tree that any of us could make a tree for, because I can tell you right now, my tree's on 23andMe. It doesn't take much to make a tree. So then they get the whole thing sort of, they back into this narrative, and then they follow them out to Pennsylvania, get the dad's DNA, and then they get the buccal swab of Brian.
Yeah.
It's like they did a circular, like as I said in my little thing, they did it back asswards. Do you know what I mean?
100.
And to me, as a medical person, having dealt with, unfortunately, our victims and other even child SA victims in the ER and whatnot, the chain of custody for the police, it's like, you know, I touch this, they're standing right over me. They're like, hand this to me. Then I have to sign off. Then they sign their name. It's just boom, 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 boom. You can't break that chain of custody. And this is just a sloppy, horrible mess for this young man. And you know what's worse? Somebody's probably out there that did this crime.
Oh yeah. I mean, I've never come out and said that I think Bryan Kohberger is innocent. I've never said that. I never said that I thought Bryan Kohberger was guilty. I said that when it looks like shit and it smells like shit, it is shit. And that's what I just felt about this. And those are the type of cases that I like to look into, is when I can prove things. You know, when you say something to me and I can go and find something that says, okay, why are you saying this? Because this is this, you know what I mean? And with this, it was, you know, I really want to know why the Gonsalveses really try to get in front of this. I felt, and they had a different idea from jump about a lot of things, and I want to know why. And
well, I'm sure they know why.
And then when BK but then when Bryan Kohberger was arrested, then they want to walk that stuff back
Right.
But that either means that you weren't being honest before, or why are you walking it back just because they arrested Bryan Kohberger? So I hope that they read this, that they see this, and they say, okay, you know what? No, like this isn't going to fly.
Okay, I think Olivia, the sister, if I were to be a betting person, she's going to read this latest document dump, I'm sure. And the bottom line is, I don't impugn or blame the parents, the Gonsalveses or whomever, because they're in grief, and they have really been misled by even the silence, like, lies of omission, we'll call it. They have been omitted from the process. Their lawyer, what is it, Shannon Gray or something like this, said there has been no direct conversation with them since since a couple of days after the crime or whatever. So they're probably grasping at straws. And I could imagine as a parent, if somebody were arrested and my child had been horribly murdered, I would probably grasp onto that if the police presented this as like fact. Do you know what I'm saying? So I don't blame them, but I pray that Olivia and the parents will really take a close look at this latest document dump, and God willing, they will also look at your channel, and have a listen. So where do we go from here? That's
Well, I haven't. So I've saved a bunch of stuff
right.
as this was all happening. I've been on this case since the beginning. All the mods have done an amazing job. Bella, and so I'm going to be putting out, because I think it's time now to start talking about, if not Bryan, then who, but and really like hone in on that, because now we're from these motions that Anna's putting out, we're able to have, I'm able to get way more information. Like I have these dates, so I want to enter in these dates. I want to go back and look at everything that was said from the beginning, and that's why I don't know if you caught the beginning of the episode here with the video.
No, I did not. I was like a couple minutes late, so now I'll have to look back later.
Well, here, I'm going to put up something really quick then. Look, check this out. Let me show you this. Okay, here you go. Those of you guys that just joined, here's the video that I did. Let's take a look at just the beginning part of it, okay? So I'm gonna mute so I can hear this.
Oh, I'll mute myself too. Hold on.
Okay, so here you go.
Sorry.
All right, let's take a look. Let's see how I can do this. Oh, I know what I have to do.
And I'm one of them.
One of the things that you said last night about the two of them having fallen asleep in the same bed, that was new information. Is that the case, that they were actually in the same bed?
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there. There was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was
Yeah, of course
supposed
not.
to be on the wraps, but
Of course
I've
not.
told them, you got to work with me. You got to tell me what to say and what not to say, and I'll listen. But sometimes they're scared to give me those advices, and I understand.
rewinding back to November 14th, 2022, there has only ever been one picture of Kaylee's bedroom that has ever been seen by the public. Daily Mail is the source. Here it is. And
to me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there. There was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. I didn't mean to.
Things that you said last night about the two of them having fallen asleep in the same bed, that was new information. Is that the case, that they were actually in the same bed?
To me, it wasn't new.
so he says, to me, it wasn't new. To me, it wasn't new. So who told him that they were in the same bed? Because he goes right into saying right here, he's like, to me, it wasn't new. Okay. But then listen to why he says that it isn't new. He talks about the coroner. Well, the coroner didn't give him this picture. Okay. And he was saying that, well, by process of elimination, I know my daughter's room, and well, okay, let's check it out.
To me, it wasn't new. The coroner had shared a bunch of information about there. There was some photos. If you knew the house design, you would have seen that there was a picture of Kaylee's bed, and it was made.
I don't think that bed looks made to me. Maybe people feel like that it does. That's up to them to decide. But ultimately, when you would have talked to him about the coroner, he goes then into saying things that their points of, damage didn't match. They were significantly different. That Kaylee was like gouges. Okay. I don't know of a coroner that's going to be on the phone with you and describing that to you, that, hey, your daughter was like just gouged to death. Like this, just chunks, like big old gape tears. Like this wasn't stabbings. This was like, we're talking about big old like gouges are out, and like Kaylee's liver and lung were like, cut up, and this was like tears, and like, who's going to talk like that to a dad?
May I interrupt you really quickly?
Yeah.
I'm still here, by the way. No, I mean, I'm going to say two things. One is I think the bed looks as though it's pulled back, as if, like when I'm asleep at night, if one of my children calls me and I'm in bed, I
Mhm.
back the sheet in the blanket and I get out.
Yeah.
I think she may have been in the bed there and heard something, honestly, and that something then happened after that. Obviously, there's no blood or anything on the bed, and then maybe this was staged post crime, and they were both put in the same. I don't know, but I agree with you. I personally don't think that the bed
Or what if she's on the ground though? What if she's over like more to the ground, like on the ground of her floor?
Yeah, I don't even know. We don't know, but
Yeah.
I agree with you. The bed doesn't. But I wanted to say something that coroner, who is a defense attorney, I'm sure you know, as well as she's a nurse.
Yes.
But I found her from the beginning to be. I mean, I don't want to be like a slander or libel or anything like this, but I found her to be most unprofessional, even, and very unsure of herself as to what to say to the media. And she was very hesitant. She was, and even the fact that she said, well, I was told I shouldn't go in to the scene because these other people were there, on the crime scene, investigators. So and then I heard, and I don't know if this is rumor, but that she may have called the 17 or 16 or whatever daughter. I thought the mother, Christy, had said at one point that they got information from the coroner who called the daughter. Is that true, or does that sound like rumor?
What was that? Oh yeah. No, that's what Christy said, that the coroner called and then just told all of this stuff to their like 16 or 17-year-old daughter.
Which
I don't believe. I mean, who does that?
Well, that's what I'm saying. I'm sorry.
I'm sorry, but I want to see phone records, and I will demand. I think that. What do you mean? You're telling me that a coroner called your house and said this type of stuff to your daughter? I'd be raging.
I'd be raging too, but I have to be honest with you. From what you presented on the television or whatever, YouTube, whatever, that coroner to me, I wouldn't be surprised. She just seemed really unsure and unprofessional. The only other thing that I wanted to say, it has bothered me the whole way through, is that's my dog groaning, in case you're wondering who's groaning in the background.
I can't even hear it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So listen, like as a physician, it is required, like by law, when you have privileges at a hospital. So it used to be when I used to do, admissions, now they have hospitalists. But if you're on call for the hospital or on call for the ER and they beep you, you must respond within 15 minutes. That is basically the law. And if you don't respond within 15 minutes and find out what's going on in the ER, etc., and then you don't get there within a half an hour after that call, you can be written up and lose your privileges. I mean, this is just known best practices. So for me, what has bothered me from the beginning, Lana, is the fact that you have the Chief Fry and you have Payne, who took 4 hours to get to the scene of a quadruple murder. I mean, that is completely nonsensical to me. And my having dealt with law enforcement on many criminal investigations, in the ER and whatnot, you have people like they're immediately. And I've worked in small rural and in more metropolitan areas. Doesn't matter. The police and the investigators are there ASAP.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just all of it. Like I get into a lot with this video to talk about, though, because what it goes into is it starts back at the beginning, and it's very simple. The G's were getting their information. They had a source. Okay. Somebody was their source. And I believe that all roads pointed to their little birdie being that of Jack Decor. Jack Decor has been providing the family with information. That's where they were getting their information. They were saying how the police weren't giving them the information. They came out and said that. Okay. The police aren't talking to us. The police aren't talking to us. The police aren't talking to us. Okay. But then the stuff that he's saying here in this interview, it's clashing with one regard. And it's about, he wants the police to tell him what he, what he should say and what he shouldn't say. And well, about what though? They didn't interview him. So how would the police know what he knows or what he doesn't know? Okay. Because the police, according to them, did not even interview them. Right.
Right.
So I don't know how that conversation ever comes up where it's like, okay, hey, tell me what you want me to say. Tell me what you don't want me to say. And the more that I broke down like this interview, and in other interviews, is there's just a lot of inconsistencies, and it's because he's holding back stuff that he knows. But the question is how does he know? How does he know things?
Well, I'm sure from the inside.
But
Like he
think
has
about
a
it,
son.
how?
Well, doesn't he have a son, Stephen, who is a member of that fraternity? Maybe through that his son, or through Jack DeCore, who who I thought honestly I thought it was a rather flimsy excuse that per Christie, that Jack DeCore never was able to call them because he was being interviewed by the police. But then you see a photograph of him kind of sashaying down the road with the police stuff up there on 1122. And if his phone was confiscated by the police, find another phone. Tell the police I need to call my ex-girlfriend's parents right away. So the whole thing has smelled from the beginning. And I just wanted to point out a couple of huge inconsistencies to me from like a medical perspective.
Yeah.
So, and
you're always you're always on it. I always appreciate you in chat. You're always, asking the right questions. You're not believing the narrative that was fed. And now, I mean, I think it's clear now today more than it's ever been that what is out there is a narrative, and it's not the right narrative. But you're going to have your people saying, well, it's because he cleaned his car. It's because he did this. He cleaned up. Well, if you got to his name and why didn't you go, ask him? If you were following him around, then you should have all of this documentation of him using his, gloves all the time and cleaning everything and doing all of this stuff. I think Bryan knew that he was going to be framed for this based on if those actions were truly happening. And he was like, dude, if they get my DNA, oh my God, like think about that. If he was like, I mean, how do you get to the name of Bryan Kohberger to even frame this guy? Why pick him to frame?
I don't know. But what I want to also know is that audio that Anne has asked for, the audio interview with the Moscow police with Bryan. No, isn't that true that there is that audio interview out there that the state has not provided them?
Well, there's a lot of the state hasn't provided.
Right, but I think in one of the things you read last week, I was.
Yeah. She wants. It's not with him.
It's not.
No, okay. I don't believe that's with him. Okay. That's where people are putting out the wrong information. And I know that JLR had reported like that was an interview with the FBI and Bryan Kohberger.
No, I thought there was an interview. I misunderstood then, but there was an audio of an interview. You're right. I don't think they said of Bryan, but of somebody and the Moscow police, right?
Yeah, that's what they were looking for. They were looking for this audio. And in turn, what the prosecutors did is they turned over an interview.
Right.
From that they had just said that they had just discovered after March 30th.
That's right.
It was FBI with somebody.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing. Flimsy, it's a mess, it's horrible. I'm grateful that you've allowed me to give my input. I am on the side of very unpopular stance. And believe me, I've gotten a lot of like backlash because oh God.
What the greatest part though is that when you do things fairly and objectively and you back up everything with receipts, I can honestly say that you ask for the stuff. I know on my channel, I produce the receipts, like the reason I question things and I show why I'm questioning it.
Right.
Here's why I believe, here's why, like, look at this. Like, I mean, come on. So yeah, it's funny because when you're getting attacked because you're standing up for people's rights, it's funny that the first that they always want to attack you with is that, oh my God, you're a crazy fangirl of Bryan Kohberger, or that you're just a lover of something. Why can't I be a lover of our rights?
Exactly. No. It's really true. And I mean, I have taken guff even following you, to be honest. I mean, on other channels.
Oh, I know. They're like, they're like, oh, you were in her chat, and then they try to blacklist people.
It's unbelievable.
Oh,
listen,
it is.
I don't have the time to be doing everything your wonderful mods do to try to do, like, all the little background work and investigative stuff with documents and receipts. But what I've tried to do is to help sort of be a benefactress
Oh,
for
you
your
have.
channel,
You've
and
always
that's,
done that. You
you
always
know,
come through, and that's why I want to say thank you so much for that, because your support financially, you're always, either doing this with the super chat or something like that, or you've done like a Cash App or like a PayPal or whatever. And I just want to say thank you so much. That's been
that's really all I
very,
can
very
do.
kind.
Okay, but that's all I can do. I'm sorry I don't have time to be like the other people in chat who can send you stuff,
Well,
like
you're just a
documents.
sweetheart.
But anyway, listen, thank you so much for the honor and the privilege to come on tonight.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And I will talk to you here soon, and keep rocking.
Okay, you take care.
Okay, you too, hon.
It was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was.
Yeah.
And it was made. There was nothing in there. So it was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was. It was kind of a process of elimination. If you'd been in the home, if you knew the inside information, like I knew that was my daughter's room. So to me, it had been out, but I'm sure they're not happy with me saying that. And I didn't mean to say something that was
Yeah, of course.
supposed to be on the wraps. But
Of course.
I've
not.
told them, you got to work with me. You got to tell me what to say and what not to say, and I'll listen. But sometimes they're scared to give me those advices, and I understand.
Let me ask you, because of something that you said when you spoke with Lawrence Jones, do you believe
Do you believe that people on this campus know something that the rest of us don't know? Do you think that there was a stalker involved in this case?
I don't think it matters what I particularly feel. I just want them to follow the evidence. I think even people who think they don't have information, I know.
Okay, so Bryan Kohberger was labeled as, this crazy stalker, right? That he was stalking them. Like that's the narrative that they put out there, that he had been stalking them, right? Or one of them, right? So back before that ever came out, there was talks about Kaylee possibly having a stalker, things like that. That's what this question is stemming from.
People have been scared to share stuff because of there may be a alcohol or drugs or.
Remember back, Mr. Gonzalez was asking for people to come forward. Don't worry, the police are not trying to investigate you and your, drugs or your, whatever you're, maybe in your picture that you want to come forward with. Okay, that's not what they're interested in.
Something in the background. I've tried to work with them to let everybody know that that's not what they're working on. But I've definitely heard from people that they're scared to submit stuff. It could be a party. It could be anything around that neighborhood within that time that could help us. And I think that community is going to solve this case just as much as those officers in that room.
You said something about, someone's car could be, in a selfie or a video of a person who said that they had an alibi, but the car isn't where it was supposed to be. Tell me about that, what you're thinking when you say that, sir.
I have an IT background. I know Teslas and some other vehicles have cameras that you don't even have to.
Right here, Steve mentions a Tesla. That would be a luxury vehicle. Okay. A luxury vehicle. The question is, well, actually, just let her do it like this.
Going to solve this case just as much as those officers in that room.
You said something about, someone's car could be, in a selfie or a video of a person who said that they had an alibi, but the car isn't where it was supposed to be. Tell me about that, what you're thinking when you say that, sir.
I have an IT background. I know Teslas and some other vehicles have cameras that you don't even have to turn on and they're still recording. And there's some chips in there that you can pull data off. I know that's the way the Wi-Fi's work. So this individual could have came into these homes and partied and done things, and that data can be captured. I want this guy to be fair. I want him to be scared. I don't want him to be confident. I want him to be sick of seeing my face. And I'm not going nowhere until this guy's off the streets. And the worst thing I want is another family to go through this.
Kaylee's mom said something about being fearful that he is around, that he's watching all of this, that he could even show up at a funeral service for your daughter or one of these.
What does an IT guy have to do with if you believe that someone's alibi? He's always said that why aren't they giving up these alibis that people have? What are these alibis? Remember that? Okay. Who's got luxury cars over there? Whose chips does he want out of people's cars? Like what? This is a guy that has so much in his head, that's like so many things that is going on in his head, trying to talk about this, but he can't talk about it the way that he wants to talk about it because he can't reveal certain things. So I hope one day that this man feels like he can just lay it all out there. Lay it all out there.
Children.
It's pretty much a fact. He who does something like this and doesn't tune into the media? Who wouldn't? It's in his 100% selfish interest. So yes, he is, and we wouldn't want to do some kind of celebration and exclude anyone. So yeah, he could easily be there, and that's a sick kind of twisted person that would do this kind of crime.
When you talked about getting into the phone, you said we have family passwords and, we were able to get in there. Is there anything that you can share with us about what you learned there or people she was communicating with? We know there was a back and forth between she and her on and off boyfriend through the course of the night.
There was a little, there was some information. We were able to get that to the police officers. I think it definitely helped them. I know the behavior footprint afterwards, it did definitely get some more things in the works, but
this makes absolutely no sense. All of this right here, this question. Okay. Listen to this response. I have no idea. Like I listened to it like 50 times. I have no idea what it means. But if you break it up a certain way, it's telling. But listen.
It did definitely get some more things in the works, but I'm a historical fact person. I can help them know.
We know there was a back and forth between she and her on and off boyfriend through the course of the night.
There was a little, there was some information. We were able to get that to the police officers. I think it definitely helped them. I know the behavior footprint afterwards. It did definitely get some more things in the works, but I'm a historical fact person. I can help them know my daughters and Maddie from past, but going forward, I'm going to be less and less relevant.
Do you believe that your daughter was the target, or do you have any reason to think that that she was over someone else, or that someone else was?
I do have some inkling that there was some behavior difference. I call them a footprint. When you commit a crime, you do different behaviors. I've asked permission to give any.
Wait.
But going forward,
Again, listen to what the question is.
it did definitely get some more things in the works. But I'm a historical fact person. I can help them know my daughters and Maddie from past. But going forward, I'm going to be less and less relevant.
Listen to this question.
Do you believe that your daughter was the target, or do you have any reason to think that that she was over someone else, or that someone else was?
Do you believe that your daughter was the target or that somebody else was? Okay. Yes or no? Right. I don't really know what to believe. You know what I mean? Do you believe that they were the target? Do not. This is where he wants to answer this question, but he knows that he has to be reserved with answering it, right? Because he can't just say what he needs to say what he wants to say. But what he says makes absolutely no sense.
I do have some inkling that there was some behavior difference. I call them a footprint. When you commit a crime,
there were some behavioral differences when you commit a crime. What? What did one of the victims do when you commit a crime? Like, she's really confused here by this answer.
You do different behaviors. I've asked permission to give any of that out, and they told me no, it would not be beneficial. So I've held back on that.
What does he want to give out? What I think he's trying to say here is that people's lives changed. One of the victims' lives changed. Okay. And they maybe started doing something. They started living a different life than they did before. And if it's not his daughter, then it would be his daughter telling him or his wife about it, to the point of, let's go talk about why Kaylee was not living anymore at 1122 King. Okay. Again, what's the question here? And then what is this answer? Because it's simply, do you think that your daughter's a target, or were one of the victims the target? That was the question. I don't know if my daughter was a target, or if he wanted to say, no, they haven't told us that. They said that, we don't know what the word target means, but none of this is just answering that question of, it's very confusing.
That she was over someone else, or that someone else was?
I do have some inkling that there was some behavior difference. I call them a footprint. When you commit a crime, you do different behaviors. I've asked permission to.
When you commit a crime, you do different behaviors. Who committed a crime and is acting differently because they committed a crime? Because this interview was way before Bryan Kohberger. Like, this is right after the candle visual. So who committed a crime here? Because then this is the answer that he gives when she's like, because she's super confused. the woman that interviewed him. Super confused.
Give any of that out, and they told me no, it would not be beneficial. So I've held back on that, and I tried to keep my word.
I'm sorry, behavior of her or someone she knew?
Behavior of the victims.
That was his definition, describing the behavior of the victims, okay? Not the perpetrator. The behavior of the victims. One, in my opinion, the way that I've dissected this to the point of what is this, the question, what was the question? You know, when someone gives you an answer to something, you're like, wait, what was the question that you gave me that answer? And the question was, do you believe that Kaylee was the target or that somebody in the house was the target? Okay. And this answer wasn't answering that. The answer is answering that one of the victims, or maybe multiple victims, had done something that would be like, quote unquote, like criminal. And like that, like, should he put that out there that this is, you know, this was something that happened and their behavior changed? I mean, what does this even mean? But that was the question. The question was, do you believe that Kaylee was the target? And she's confused as to what he's talking about here.
I call them a footprint. When you commit a crime, you do different behaviors. I've asked permission to give any of that out, and they told me no, it would not be beneficial. So I've held back on that, and I tried to keep my word.
I'm sorry, behavior of her or someone she knew?
Behavior of the victims.
Okay. All right, Steve, I appreciate you sharing this with us. And as I said,
and then you have to include the surviving roommates as victims as well. I'll be back tomorrow night. Until then, be kind to one another and rewind it back. All the documents are there. There's more documents that came out. I'll be putting more stuff out, and we'll be talking to all of you guys later. Again, take care. Be kind to one another. Thank you, mods. Thank you, new members. Thank you for the super chats. Coco, super sticker, thank you so much. Celtic, thank you. Danny and Taylor dropping the mic. MK, thank you. Please make merch. I don't even know that answer. Amy Harris, do you believe Bryan is innocent? I believe that they don't have DNA, and that's what I've been waiting to hear about, this DNA. So after the motions that just got filed and the response and all that, I don't know if Bryan's innocent or guilty, but I know that Bryan is innocent until proven guilty. So that will always be my motto with anybody that doesn't openly admit to what they've done. You know, you are innocent until proven guilty. LA, thank you for that super sticker. William, super sticker, thank you so much. Super sticker. Lady Crimson, thank you so much. Welcome to the new member there, Britt. Tanya Highlana, finally got you on a live. You are the best. I will take that. Brooke E. It's funny. I saw your people always take screenshots and they post things on people's like community pages. What a great night to tune back into your lives. It's been a busy month. Thanks for covering, plus for that fantastic laugh you have. Keep it up, cheekbones. Thank you there, Brooke E. Robin, welcome. New membership. Diddy87, new member. Woo, woo. Bail money. Time for bail for Bryan. Latina, thank you again. The state's case is imploding. iNeighborhood membership, Vanilla Chip membership, and anybody that bought these for people, thank you as well. RVing, keep it rolling. Good work, Lana. Keep it up. Let's find the killers. I agree. New member there, Tanya. Thank you for your time and work. Tuning in till the end. Thank you. Very real. Low Stevens, thank you. Have supper on me, won't be much. I do appreciate that. Plain iron, I will have supper on you. This is why I watch your channel. Receipts all day, every day. You know it. Until next time, see you guys soon. Be kind. Again, thank you.
We're going to put the tip line. The tip line is up right now. It's 208-883-7180. And as you have said, none of these young people should fear that if they were drinking that night or involved in what most of us would consider pretty typical college behavior, that they are going to become a problem, that's going to be a problem for them. They need to come forward with their videos, whatever's on their phone, whatever they might have picked up on, in order to continue to work to get a break in this case, which is what we all want. And we all want some justice. We want to find out who did this, and that you can all find some sort of eventual peace in this.